This old man can clap you in 19 seconds. That's even faster than me. Usually I make it to about 30. Robert McCall gets up early to work at Home Mart. Duty McCalls. I'm sorry. I've just set a new record for the fastest lame joke. McCall has OCD that doesn't really affect his life, but makes him a bit special in a different way. Robert is respected and well-liked amongst his coworkers. He has lunch with his friend and coworker Ralphie, whom he is in the process of helping lose weight. Ralphie eats healthy vegan, gluten, and taste-free sandwiches with chips. What can I say? We're all human. I, for one, put Nutella in my tuna sandwich. Delicious. McCall reminds Ralphie he's supposed to lose weight for his test to become a security guard. Aim for progress, not perfection. If only the progress of eating chips wasn't that good. Most nights, McCall can't sleep, so he goes to a local 24/7 diner, where he reads books and drinks tea he brings from home. Man grinds and saves like a hustler. He is now reading The Old Man and the Sea. A young and sussy girl interrupts Robert with her ironic remarks about the book. She suggests the book Rich Dad Poor Dad by best-selling author Robert Kiyosaki and Get Rich or Die Trying rap album by famous music artist 50 Cent. What can I say? The girl knows how to grind. She's too intelligent to learn anything and goes back to her night of hustling again. At work, a couple of McCall's young colleagues ask him what he used to do before this fantastic job at Home Mart. He says he was Michael Jackson's dancer and even performed a little dance for them. Shake it, baby. He sold the story to me. Robert returns to the diner that night and runs into the same girl. She notices he's reading a new book. Robert tells her how the old man one ended. Spoiler, it was a waste of a delicious sashimi. A limo pulls up from the diner as they enjoy small talk. The girl gets a call from her pimp, Slavy. He tells her she has a client, the man in the limbo. She tells Slavy she doesn't want to work with this client because he's a pig, but Slavy ignores her feelings. Harsh. The car door opens and reveals a whale waiting for the girl. Let's hope he's a crypto whale. Just make sure you're on top and you'll be fine. Reluctantly, the girl goes outside and joins him. The next night, Robert finds the girl at the diner with a bruise on her face. Hope her insurance pays for traumas of the workplace. Suddenly, she decides to join Robert at his table. She introduces herself as Terry, later revealing her real name as Alina. Nice one, Robert. Cracked her story without any effort. She hands him a CD she recorded of herself singing, hoping to get his opinion later. Probably thinks he's an undercover take Heath. Detective Alina aptly deduces that Robert has been recently widowed and still feels lost without his wife. Hit that on the spot. Robert confirms and reveals that his reading habits are inspired by a reading challenge his wife couldn't finish. 100 books everyone should read. Nice one. Resembles my own challenge. 100 terrible movies no one should watch. This one's actually pretty good though. Robert made it to 91. Keep it up, bro. I think I've passed that many uploads at this point. The book club leaves the diner, talking and walking for a while. Then a car pulls up to them as they're about to part ways for the night. It's Slavy and his driver Tevi. Slavy gets out and slaps Alina. Robert attempts to intervene but is called off by Alina. Plus, Tevi has a gun in his hand. Come on, bro, you have 9 books left. Go home. Slavy walks over to Robert, hands him a card for his business, and suggests he picks another girl. Or better, go for the girls at the library. That one's a tip from me. For a few days and nights, Robert doesn't see Alina and seems worried. One night, the diner's manager tells him Alina's in the hospital after being beaten badly. Don't worry, Rob, she has great insurance. But McCall goes there to check and finds a mess instead of Alina's face. He also sees another girl, Mandy, who's crying uncontrollably. Tell her about that reading story and she'll cry for the rest of the week. Robert observes from a distance. A man watches 2 girls from a distance and instantly enjoys it. Potential title. Mandy later walks by Robert crying. She gets a cup of coffee but it overflows, and Rob comforts her because there will be no sad sussy ladies on his watch. He asks about Alina, and Mandy reveals that Slavy hit her, and she hit him back. Brave move, but not the smartest one. Judging by the current situation, the smartest move would be to change city or state. Mandy says that Slavy once threw battery acid in some girl's face, and keeps her around as a reminder to the others. Well, my suggestion is even more solid now. He treats his girls like merchandise. Well, what would you expect from a pimp? Robert ponders the situation for a few days. What should I eat for dinner? What book should I read? Those would be good questions to consider. But our man decides to act in the name of a sussy girl he talked with once. Simp. Using the card Slavy gave him, Robert goes to a restaurant where Slavy and his men are hanging out. Vodka and Russian rap. Classic. Robert enters the office suite above the restaurant with an envelope containing 9.8 grand. All the pension money he grinded so hard for. And all for Alina's freedom. Bad idea. The boys laugh at Robert and Slavy explains that he makes so much money from Alina that 9.8 grand could only buy her for 1 month. Okay then. He then laughs at Robert and suggests he choke the chicken about 9.8 thousand times instead. And by that time, Alina wouldn't be worth so much, and he could consider freeing her. You know, maybe that's not such a bad idea. After so much self-exercise, I would definitely forget about any girls for some time. So Robert takes the money back and almost walks out. Oh, almost. Suddenly, he decides to stay and lock the doors. Ouch, guess it's jerking time. After carefully observing the men and calculating their chances, he sets the timer on his watch and moves into action. He grabs one man's arm and causes him to shoot Slavy in the throat, jabs a shot glass into that man's eye, and stabs the third man with his own knife. He then proceeds to get a corkscrew and repeatedly stab Tevi, sticking it under his chin and finishing him off. 18 seconds, not bad. I thought my 30 seconds was pretty good, but the girls aren't so impressed. McCall goes to Slavy's side. Who are you? All that Slavy manages to ask before death. Robert apologizes and goes home. Apology forcibly accepted, I guess. There, he cleans himself up and actually sleeps all night for once. All the man needed for sleep was to kill a bunch of Russians. Maybe Uncle Joe has insomnia too. That would explain the current world situation. Or maybe Rob took Slav's self-exercise suggestion. At work, Ralphie comes to Mr. Miyagi and thanks him for all the training. He managed to lose weight. Following the murders, a nice Russian guy named Teddy arrives in Boston to investigate what happened to Slavy and his boy band. He also teams up with a group of corrupt cops. So far, everything shows it was a gang hit from a rival mob. Teddy calls himself the new boss in town and schools the rest of the Gopniks. Listen to the man, he's got a suit on. At work, Rob notices Ralphie isn't in. Ralphie called it quits. Come on, bro. Eat some delicious tacos. It happens to everyone. Why immediately quit? Robert visits a restaurant that Ralphie's mother owns. Ralphie helps her after a fire breaks out. Robert stays and offers his help. What a man this guy is. A dedicated man of society during the day, a mafia killer at night. Meanwhile, Teddy is driven by one of the crooked cops, Frank Masters, to the workplace of an Irish gangster named John Looney to continue his search for the killer. John hate speaks on Teddy and all Russians in general. News channel makes people crazy. You should be more tolerant these days, says Teddy, and hits John with an ashtray while Frank kills John's security. Teddy continues to beat John's face until the man goes unconscious. Meanwhile, Teddy finds out about Alina and questions Mandy. She says she doesn't know her that well. Liar, liar, pants on fire. Later, Teddy gets a call from his boss, Mr. Pushkin, and demands results. All Teddy can say now is that the killings were spontaneous and the killer is a sort of John Wick. Now we see two dirty cops, Ramar and Peterson, eating at Ralphie's mother's restaurant. They squeeze the money from her for protection and claim that there will be another accident if the payment is late next week. Darn it, I thought the times of corrupt cops squeezing the money from people had passed. Isn't it the government's problem now? They leave the place where Robert is waiting for them. Oh, Mr. Justice here. Insomnia again? He says he'd like to report a crime, but the douchebag cops brush him off and tell him to call 911. So Rob does, calling them on their personal phone. If even cops can't defend their personal information, we're doomed. McCall plays a video of dirty cops extorting a convenience store clerk. They confess to starting the fire at Ralphie's mother's restaurant. The cops don't like the situation and hold Robert at gunpoint, but McCall quickly shows that they wouldn't even pass the security guard test. Robert tells them they can either give the money back or the video will hit the news stations. Honestly, just post it on Twitter and watch them get cancelled. The cops decide to return the money and Ralphie gets back to work. Later, Teddy visits Mandy. All other girls said they were close with Alina. This is what happens when you lie too obviously. He makes her confess about the night she saw Alina at the hospital, and she talks about a mysterious but kind black man who also visited her, but he never revealed his name and no one ever saw Alina again. Well, that's enough information. Thank you. I'll go now, says Teddy and leaves. Not. He instead strangles her to death. Naturally, of course. Later, we see Robert playing baseball with his coworkers. Then Ralphie shows up in a security guard uniform. Hooray! Test completed. Guess those tacos were vegan. Meanwhile, Teddy finds video evidence of Robert going into the restaurant, but none of him ever leaving. Sussy. At work, Robert sees Jenny, a cashier, for a refund. He notices she's dealing with a man who silently commits a robbery at gunpoint. Whoa, at the grounded shop? That's dope. Robert calmly comes over and gives him the money. The crook also wants Jenny's ring, which was her mother's. Okay bro, you took your $16 and that wasn't enough? Robert observes the man as he did with the Russians. Guess the tiger is getting ready to strike, but he doesn't since children entered the store and could get harmed. So he hands the ring to the thief. Then Rob follows the man outside and looks at the car plates on his ride. The cops say this was part of a string of robberies from the same man. Robert then goes to get a sledgehammer off the rack. The next day, Jenny discovers her ring in the register, while Robert returns the sledgehammer to the rack after wiping it clean. I think I see some connection between those absolutely different events, but maybe it's just me. Pretending to be a detective, Teddy visits Robert. The latter immediately understands what's happening and answers his questions with his prepared answers. The man trained for this. Teddy leaves feeling sussy about Robert, making Robert take some action. Teddy tries digging into Robert, but everything shows Rob is a 9-to-5 normie and not involved with Slavy's death. Teddy feels that everything they know about McCall is fiction. Maybe Robert simply took kung fu classes. A wannabe worker enters the cafe where Robert enjoys his book. Robert breaks his character in seconds. Teddy, Frank, and some others wait outside. The man takes out a gun and walks to Rob. Suddenly, a truck pulls up in front of the diner, obscuring Teddy's view from his vehicle. He doesn't get to see how Robert kicks the worker in the stomach with his book, killing him by slamming his head down on the table and breaking his neck, clean as a whistle. He then kills the lights, walks out of the diner, casually walks in front of Teddy and his boys in the car, snaps a photo of them, and then walks away. Based. Gangsters follow Robert home. Teddy demands taking him alive. Always a wrong decision when you hunt down John Wick material. Although Rob is already a bit wounded. No worries, the clock should have lagged behind. At home, Rob boils some honey to cure the wound while the gangsters silently enter his home. They stealth into his apartment only to reveal that McCall is in another condo, watching them with hidden cameras. Ha, trick them. Can't blame the man. He likes taking photos and watching. Relatable. Robert planted some evidence. Pills for air sickness, tickets to Bangkok, and an open web link about the top 10 things you need to know before dating a ladyboy. But Teddy doesn't buy the story. He feels Robert is watching and instantly enjoys it. Then Teddy orders them to find Robert, or he'll bring people who will. Rob leaves town only to visit his old friends Brian and Susan Plummer. They obviously have a history of cooperating with some intelligence agency. Those feds. Can you smell them? McCall asks about Teddy and his Russian friends. While Susan gathers information, Brian and Robert discuss McCall's car bomb accident. Everyone, including Brian and Susan, believed Robert was dead. Oh nice, faking deaths. I heard they charge 5 years for this, but not in this state, and not the ex-agents, I guess. When she returns on the Uber Fly, she says that the men Robert killed were in the Russian mafia led by Vladimir Pushkin, a high-profile and untouchable oligarch. Teddy, whose real name is Nikolai, is the dog Pushkin sends when something needs to be dealt with. Ramar and Peterson were Pushkin's people, found dead a couple days earlier with their testicles shoved into their mouths. Classic Russians. They call this 2 shots of a white bear back in Moscow. Susan warns Robert that these men won't stop until he and everyone he cares about dies. Love those moments. Let me assume what happens next. Robert kills his mafia boss only to find out he is connected with a bigger mob boss who's also associated with the president of Russia, who is also connected with the president of the US. So should you go straight to Donald Trump? I mean Uncle Joe? Anyway, Susan asks why Robert went into all this crap for Alina. Because I can, says Robert. Susan sees the man his wife Vivian loved is not gone, so she blesses him and the man leaves. Robert finds Frank Masters and traps him in his car, which he has rigged with a hose from the tailpipe. Give the man some info about Pushkin or die in a car. A pretty boring death, so the man breaks. Pushkin was a classic Russian writer born in the year 1799. No, not that Pushkin. Frank finally understands what Robert needs and takes him to a warehouse. There, Russians count and stash millions of dollars in cash. You know, something toy review channels make in minutes. There, Robert makes the gangsters surrender with a classic "let me see your gun" trick. He ties them up with all the dirty money for the cops to find and frees all the workers, giving them a departing bonus from Pushkin's money. Well, what do you know? Now Russians rise up the American economy? Or maybe it was like that all the time. He handcuffs Frank and compels him to report, compelling him to be a good cop one last time, or the first time, and give up his stash. McCall finds Frank's safety deposit box and finds some money, passports, and a USB stick. You don't want to know what's in it. Teddy invites a team of assassins from Russia to help him track down and take out McCall. No need, he's right here. Oh wow, those guys work fast. Robert sits in front of Teddy and offers him a chance to stop hating before Robert takes out the entire Democratic Party. I mean, Russian mafia. Teddy refuses because he's a psycho with no feelings. Even after the latter told the heartbreaking history of Teddy's, aka Nikolai's, childhood. It would make everyone cry, but not this psychopath. Robert leaves the table for Nikolai to consider the chance. At home, Robert checks the USB with all the info about Pushkin's operations. Oh, that's what was on it. Okay, that's not so bad. It also reveals everyone on Pushkin's payroll. Cops, deputies, politicians. Told you. Goes all the way straight to the White House. Robert sends the information anonymously to the detective in charge of the warehouse bust. He also finds one of Pushkin's oil tankers and blows it up, along with several trucks and a warehouse. Cool guys don't look at explosions moment. Meanwhile, Teddy is working too, finally finding a pressure point on Robert. Teddy's boys take Homemart employees hostage, threatening that they will kill them unless Frank meets Teddy where he blew up the tanker. Our man has 29 minutes to come, so he takes a bus. Classic Robert. Not all ex-agents take Uber Fly. My tax money is saved. The mafia tracks his cell phone and waits for Robert to casually come out from the bus. The snipers check the bus. No one there, only a phone. It was a trick from the beginning. The Russians are furious and want to kill one of the hostages they keep in Homemart when suddenly, "In the End" by Linkin Park plays. Classic. Too bad I can't play it because copyright. One of the gangsters takes Ralphie to find the music source and is killed by Robert. Reminds me of how you had to throw stones and whistle in Assassin's Creed to trick the villains and kill them all one by one. NPCs are so stupid. The other hostage taker gets called away. Another trick from Robert. The man mastered Russian and Duolingo. Robert asks Ralphie to take all the hostages and leave the place. Teddy and his other assassins come to Homart. They try to find Robert, but he's moving like a shadow and steadily kills them one by one. Batman moment. Bad idea to catch him in his workplace. The man grinds here for hours. He hangs Dan Bilzerian's struggles on the downfall of his career and stabs another one through the neck. And yes, that really is Dan Bilzerian. Teddy manages to wound Robert. The shadow barely escapes. He UK drills the brains of the gangster and fights the biggest bad guy with the cool mustache. Rob gets wounded again but manages to finish the deal. Ralphie returns to help Robert but is shot in the leg, and they say a security guard is a sleepy job. Ralphie turns the electricity back on. Robert lures one of the remaining bad guys to the break room. It's lunchtime. Who ordered freshly baked propane gas? Boom! Nikolai remains all alone, like a stranger in Moscow. Teddy finds Ralphie and almost shoots him when badass McCall comes out with a stud ram set gun. He shoots Teddy with it several times until he walks up to him and shoots him in the throat. That's how we roll in America. Teddy asks, "Who are you?" Cool guys don't answer. They watch you die silently. Well, the night shift is done. It's time to go home. 3 days later, Robert shows up in Pushkin's Moscow residence bathroom. McCall repeatedly turns the lights on and off and runs the sink water until it overflows. Pushkin enjoys small talk with the stranger offering him money, but Robert disappears. Pushkin retrieves his weapon from the sink and calls for his guards when he realizes McCall has cut the electrical wires and left them on the wet floor. Water, electricity, you know the drill. Robert escapes, leaving a few more dead Russians because he can. McCall returns to Boston, bringing home groceries. Alina stalks him. The girl looks much better now. She reveals she's gotten a real job, not the influencer type, and has started to do some reading. Oh no, another book club member. She also found an envelope with almost $10,000 inside. Our bro simply cannot stop donating to young girls without the benefits. She thanks McCall for what he did and kisses him on the cheek. Exactly what you get for $10,000 these days. Robert resumes his ordinary OnlyFans subscriber life, only now he finds a new purpose. Every city needs a Batman. One night at the diner, he gets a message asking for help. Yes, but only if you are a young girl apparently. Moral of the story, reading is a pretty good habit.